welcome back to the Freak Show. Bumpy McSquigums here. I want to thank you all for joining me as I continue with my sneak peek of Pillars of Eternity 2, Deadfire. And we are going to be going through class selection, basically the different classes and various things of that nature, weapon proficiency, and all the other random fun stuff that we have and can do. And then we'll probably stop right before we get to the actual gameplay and everything else. And then we will start up there on the next episode, which should be tomorrow. So that being said, I did go back and look between the first episode and this episode, and indeed all of the same all of the same races and all of the same classes are available from the first game. So at this point, I don't know if they plan to add anything new, but at this point there are no new classes and there are no new races, which is fine because it's supposed to be a continuation, if I read correctly, a continuation of the first game, so to speak. Maybe I'm wrong. Anyhow, so we have the Barbarian, Chanter, Cypher, Druid, Fighter, Monk, Paladin, Priest, Ranger, Rogue, and the Wizard. So let's go read what we're all about. I like the fact that they show major and minor roles here. That's actually quite cool, so you can kind of figure out what you should be doing in combat when you do these things. So the Barbarian, his major role is crowd control. He also can a minor in Defender. His resource is Rage as opposed to like mana, energy, or what have you. Brutes, madmen, berserkers. Though city-dwelling people often use the term barbarian with a dose of disrespect, these rural warriors are respected by their communities for their ferocity and fearsome presence on the battlefield. Barbarians have a special, almost religious role in some cultures, but in many places the undisciplined, fearless style of the barbarian is simply how warriors conduct themselves. And then it also appears that you can actually preview the ability tree. And this is what's available for right now. Again, keep in mind this is like a early on beta. There's going to be a ton of stuff added. So none of this stuff is going to be fleshed out completely. But this is basically what we have now. If we click on any of these things, I think it's right click, stuff will pop up and we can read all about the different various skills and things. I'm not going to do that right now, or maybe even at all. But I wanted to make you guys aware of that nonetheless. Then we have the Chanter. It's all about support and crowd control. Its resources are phrases. In every culture across Eora, there are chanters. Many historians consider chanters to be the most ancient workers of magic. Their hallowed phrases stirring the collective memory of wayward souls around them, compelling them to generate magical effects in a kind of reenactment. In some societies, chanters form organized groups of storytellers and researchers, but in most parts of the world, they are just a time-honored part of local folk traditions. Then we have the Cypher, and its resource is Focus. It also is a crowd controller and a striker. Oh yeah, that reminds me. You guys can see here we can hover over everything that is highlighted, and that tells us what those things do. So we'll read crowd control for the Barbarian first. Classes that focus on crowd control can inflict heavy damage and negative effects on groups of enemies. And the Defender, it excels at resisting attacks or being able to take a large amount of punishment in combat. Then the Chanter was support and crowd control. Support characters aid their allies with defensive bonuses, healing, or protective wards. The Cypher is crowd control and striker. Strikers are unequaled in their ability to inflict large amounts of damage and crippling afflictions to a single target. Alright, so a recent discovery in the Eastern Reach, Cyphers were once called Mind Hunters by the Glanfathans. Cyphers have the ability to directly contact and manipulate another person's soul and psyche, using an ally's or enemy's essence as the focus for their magic. Though most Cyphers are still found in the Eastern Reach, practitioners of the techniques have spread throughout the known world. They are gaining acceptance over time, but are generally distrusted, especially by the uneducated. Then we have the Druid. Major role is crowd control, then a support or a striker, so kind of a jack of all trades, as Druids are known to be. They could probably also, well, maybe not. Anyway, nature spells. Animists at heart, Druids tap into the spiritual power that flows through the simple living things of Eora, plants, animals, and sometimes even living stone. While not necessarily religious, Druids do have a reverence for the natural world and a keen interest in understanding its mysteries. In most cultures, Druids are understood as a sort of primal magician, but among Glanfathans and Nasatakaki, and many rural cultures, they may have high positions of influence and authority. Now, the fighters are your main defenders, it looks like, and they can also be pretty strong with single-target abilities. Their resource, of course, is discipline. Fighters form the front line of disciplined armies across the Eastern Reach. Though they are most commonly found in cultures with an organized martial structure, fighters can also be encountered as wandering mercenaries, bodyguards, and other types of sellswords. The common element that unifies fighters is their heavy focus on endurance and melee defense. Then we have the monk, which is a physical powerhouse. I guess it's a single-target puncher. And he can also double as a defender. His resource is wounds, so apparently if he takes wounds, he can do more damage. It's a weird one. I remember reading about the monk in the first game, and I was like, that seems really cool, but also really dangerous, so I don't know. Secondary resource is mortification. Monks belong to a variety of fighting orders that have sprung up in Ixmiddle, sure, and the Eastern Reach. Over the past few centuries, while many monastic orders can trace their teachings to the enduring founder, Teltak, I got nothing. Individual organizations vary greatly in their focus, morality, and ethics. Common folks respect the incredible discipline of monks, but see them as an odd, unpredictable bunch who may not be entirely sane. Even mercenaries and other adventurers aren't sure what to make of them. Then we have the old paladin, or the paladin as it were. It's a supporter or a defender, so healer, defender. Its resource is zeal. Paladins are martial zealots, or zealots, as I like to call them. Devoted to a god, a ruler, or even a way of life, they can be found in any culture where a fanatical group of like-minded individuals have formed a warrior society dedicated to advancing their cause. Among those aligned to their worldview, paladins are viewed with respect and admiration, if a bit of fear. Many paladins hold leadership positions in armies and mercenary companies, but in the heat of battle, their fanaticism often overrules the chain of command and common sense. Then we have the priest. It's a support role only, so healing spells, essentially, with probably a little bit of DPS thrown in there, if I recall correctly. Priests are devotees of Eora's deities and practitioners of religious magic. While all priests dedicate themselves to specific gods, priests' powers is actually derived from their personal beliefs. In contrast to paladins, priests tend to focus on philosophy, teaching, and the relationship of religious organizations with common folk. The reception of priests in any given part of the world depends largely on how their god is revered or reviled by the people who live there. Fair enough. We'll take a look at the ranger here. It's a striker and a defender. That's interesting that it would be a defender, but fine. The resource is bond. Rangers are warriors of the woodlands and masters of the hunt, always partnered with soul-bonded animal companions. They can be found in wild spaces all over the world, as their lifestyles often tend toward independence and isolation. It is rare for rangers to become an integral part of a large fighting force, though they are often employed as scouts or guides. And then we have Guile. It's for the rogue. He is just a, single target DPS machine. Well, rogues are vicious killers, feared for their for the brutality of their attacks. They can be found as often in dark back alleys as the heart of battlefield skirmishes. Though unpredictable and undisciplined, rogues are commonly used as shock troops or as part of a surprise assault, their withering attacks breaking enemy ranks and morale. Rogues tend to congregate in large numbers in cities where they can be steadily employed as mercenaries or hired muscles. Muscle. It's fine. Let's throw some extra souls in there. It's fine. And then finally, the wizard. That's right, crowd control or striker. The wizard is the master of academic magic. They are students of arcane traditions that stretch back beyond the boundaries of recorded history. Wizards are a highly organized group, often forming academies or guilds devoted to research and development in magical studies, and tend to favor environments where inquiry, experimentation, debate, and the dissemination of knowledge are encouraged. Many accomplished wizards eventually become known for their eccentricity, their egos, and their unquenchable interest in all things arcane and occult, and their, of course, resources, arcane spells. Now, you thought that was enough, do you? Well, guess what? There's a bunch of subclasses. So you can go with no subclass, basically just your basic barbarian. Then we have the berserker. Giving themselves over entirely to their rage, berserkers lose themselves in their frenzy. They become oblivious to their own well-being, their carnage affecting both friend and foe. Though highly respected by their communities, berserkers often live solitary lives. Many are haunted by their own anger and the damage it causes to those around them. So essentially, Hulk smash. Frenzy grants the tenacious and hardy inspirations instead of strong and fit. Tenacious. Okay. We're not going to go into too much detail with this. Gain significant hit to crit conversion on melee and carnage attacks while frenzied. Penalty confusion while frenzied. Confused, so you'll attack friend or foe. Okay, often loathed by... This is the Corpse Eaters, by the way. Often loathed by their enemies, Corpse Eaters consume the flesh of fallen foes to gain their power. Yummy! No mere cannibals. The Corpse Eater must conduct the rites in the heat of battle. Outside of their communities, Corpse Eaters are often misunderstood as desecrators of the dead. In the minds of the Corpse Eaters, consuming the flesh of an opponent honors them and their sacrifice. Gains flesh communion. Target a hostile deceased kith, wilder, or beast to devour the corpse, healing the barbarian and granting them rage. All rage abilities are increased in cost by 1. Well, that's lovely. And then finally you have the Mage Slayers. They are typically from isolated communities, have little exposure to academics of any sort, and have a general distrust for magical arts. The exposure they do have is usually hostile, and Mage Slayers are trained to deal with them in the most efficient way possible. Swearing off the use of many magical devices. Okay, Mage Slayers inure themselves to magical effects to better fight spellcasters. Successful melee weapon attacks add spell disruption to the target, causing wizard, priest, druid, cipher, or chanter spells to have a chance to fail when cast. Cannot use potions or scrolls. Yeah, that's a thing. We're going to go back now. We're going to check out the chanters, multiple ones here. We have the Beckoner. Beckoner specializes in invocations that summon spirits from the in-between. Let's see what that's all about. The in-between refers to the shadow world that the souls briefly wander after death on their way to the beyond. It has been described as a hazy landscape, empty but for the glow of other souls, Adra, and Watchers. This is the space that Watchers peer into when they observe and speak to the lost souls and soul fragments. Even the gods cannot reach it. Okay, so they often come from cultures with a close connection to nature and reverence for their ancestors. Invocations summon twice the number of creatures. Summon invocations cost -1 phrases. Creatures summoned by invocations are immune to the paladin's abjuration ability. The penalty. The chanter's summons are smaller and have reduced health and duration. And you have the Scald. While many chanters prefer to work their magic from the safety of the back lines, Scalds depend on toe-to-toe combat to power their invocation. Scalds are found in many cultures with a proud martial tradition, celebrating the deeds of their neighbors, kin, and ancestors. Alright, so offensive invocations are -1 phrase. Weapon critical hits have a 50% chance to grant a phrase, okay? And non-offensive invocations cost +1 phrase to cast. Then the Troubadour. Troubadours are masters of the chant, able to adjust the speed of their chanting and the linger of their phrases to suit the needs of battle. More passive than many chanters, troubadours relish their support role in the midst of their comrades. Troubadours originated in Old Valia, but are common in the Valian republics and many other lands. Linger for phrases is increased significantly. Gain brisk recitation. A modal. What is a modal? A modal or a modal ability or a modal ability is one that causes a effects and effect to occur continuously while it is active. For example, a paladin's zealous auras gain or grant bonuses to everyone near them for as long as they are active. Modal abilities are often grouped so that only one modal ability in a category can be active at any given time. These groupings are reflected by how the abilities are organized on the action bar. I'm not sure what that means 100%, but we'll figure it out. All invocations cost +1 phrase. Alright, that's cool. We're going to head on over to the Safa. Crowd control. Alright, let's see what we got here. Ascendant ciphers trained to use their powers when they are at full focus. This can make their powers devastating when they are finally unleashed, but leaves them underpowered in other circumstances. Whether earned or not, Ascendants have a reputation for being cocky and overconfident. Max bonuses increase. Reaching max focus grants the Ascended effect temporarily, increasing power level and reducing power focus cost to 0. Soul Whip does not turn off while Ascended and provides more bonus damage during Ascended. While not Ascended, receives a penalty. to something. Don't know what. Then we have the Beguiler. Beguilers emphasize the mind-bending powers of ciphers, relying on deception and illusion to defeat their enemies. Some Beguilers are known for their odd sense of humor, love of riddles, and fondness for a whale, god of dreams and secrets, which I'm assuming that's exactly what it means. Fine. All deception cipher spells have increased range. Deception cipher spells restore focus when successfully cast on enemies that are vulnerable to sneak attack. Soul Whip provides less bonus damage and reduced focus against targets that are not vulnerable to sneak attack. And finally, the Soul Blade. Soul Blades focus all of their energy on offensive powers and use their Soul Whip. And the use of their Soul Whip. Among ciphers, they are known for their aggression and short tempers, though not all Soul Blades have such a hostile disposition. Gains Soul Annihilation ability, a Soul enhanced melee strike that consumes the cipher's remaining power pool, converts it into raw damage on the target. Shred cipher spells cost less focus. Downing an enemy with a melee weapon temporarily grants concentration and raises max focus. Doesn't show me the penalty there. I'm going to go into the druids now. Fury. Furies embrace storms as essential wild spirits of nature. Instead of shapeshifting into an animal form, Furies transform themselves into a storm blight. Despite their name, Furies are not known for being particularly violent, but are known for being loud, boisterous, and generally impossible to shut up. Instead of an animal form, we get the Storm Blight. Elemental Druids' spells gain increased range and penetration. Killing an enemy while spirit shifted extends the duration of the shift and cannot cast rejuvenation spells. Then you have the opposite, which I would assume is the Life Giver. While not pacifist, Life Giver groves tend to be most peaceful gatherings of druids. They focus heavily on healing magic but lack the ability to summon allies. They are commonly found in rural communities where feuds and tempers run high, such as Deerwood. Druids' rejuvenation spells cast with increased power levels. While spirit shifted, the druid's power level bonus to rejuvenation spells is greatly increased. Cannot cast creature summon spells. After spirit shift, the druid receives a significant penalty to power level of their rejuvenation spells. That's crappy. Then we have the shifters. They emphasize the spirit shifting capabilities of the druids rather than their spellcasting abilities. Unlike other druids, shifters possess the ability to shift to any animal form. Shifters are known as isolated and antisocial druids, often living as hermits far from civilization. To any of the shapeshifting animals once each per combat. Shapeshift has longer duration, and once it's over, they get a portion of the health back. But they can't cast any spells while in animal form. So there seems to be drawbacks and bonuses to each of the different subclasses, or you can just go with none of the subclasses and just roll out with it. Okay, we have Black Jacket. Fighters of the Black Jacket Academies pride themselves on being skilled with a wide variety of weapons. Though the original school was founded in the Deerwood, many sister academies have sprung up across Eastern Reach and old empires. Former students of the Black Jacket often wear black brigandine as a sign of fellowship. Start with an additional weapon set and weapon proficiency. Reduce recovery time penalty when switching weapons. Penalty is loses constant recovery. Okay. Devoted. The devoted are dedicated to the pursuit of a single weapon to the exclusion of all others. They are so attuned to the techniques of their chosen arms that the other weapons feel bizarre and alien to them because of their extreme specialization. Devoted academies often consist of a single master or a tiny cadre of like-minded disciples. May select a single weapon proficiency as their chosen weapon, increase penetration with their chosen weapon, increase critical hit damage with their chosen weapon, and penalty, I'm assuming, is just can't learn other weapons. Unbroken fighters are glaciers on the battlefield, slow-moving, almost indestructible, and dangerous to circumvent. Often underestimated for the lack of mobility, the Unbroken have laid low countless foolhardy opponents on the battlefield. Sorry about that, folks. Unbroken academies tend to be somber, serious places, most common in similarly somber, serious nations such as Adir and Red Ceres, I guess. Or Reed Ceres, Riaders, it's fine. +1 to engagement, increased penetration on disengagement attacks. Gain shield mastery, providing bonus armor rating while wearing a shield. Lower stride in combat and lower reflexes. So not a lot of dodging and not a very quick movement. Then we have the monk. The Hell Walker, I guess. All Hellwalkers undergo a ceremonial death rite as part of their initiation. The experience allows them to start combat with extra wounds and to draw physical strength from their wounds at the cost of increased vulnerability. Begin combat with more wounds. Hellwalker monks gain strength for each wound they have. Hellwalker monks take more damage for each wound they have. Well, that's rough. The Nalpazka are an order of monks who meditate on the differences between the material world and the perceived world through the use of mind-altering substances. Originating in Ixamital, the Nalpazka are respected in their homelands but often disregarded as fools when traveling abroad. Their extensive dabbling with the boundaries of reality can give others the impression that they are addled or simply insane. All drug effects last longer. That's weird. Generate wounds while receiving the bonus of drugs. Crash penalties from drugs cause the monk to be unable to receive healing. And then finally, the Shattered Pillar. Unlike other monistic orders, monks of the Shattered Pillar philosophy gain power from causing pain and harm. While not inherently sadistic, the order does attract many practitioners who delight in the suffering of others. Gain wounds by melee weapon damage inflicted. Cannot gain wounds from damage received. Requires threshold to gain wounds is increased. And the max wound limit is decreased. Well, there you go. Paladin. Bleakwalkers. Hold on. I need to go check now. Did I miss any of them? So there's no subclass, but the Paladins, every one of them something has to be chosen here. The Bleakwalkers, dreaded for their mercilessness and cruelty, paladins of the Bleakwalkers believe that extreme brutality in warfare brings conflict to a swift close. To maintain their reputation for unrelenting savagery, the Bleakwalkers never give quarter and never abandon the field, even if their employers command them to do so. Flames of Devotion deal additional corrode damage, black flames, and apply sickened affliction to targets. The Darkosi Paladini, the oldest known paladin order in the world. They were founded as guards of the Darkosi Palace in Grand Valia over 2,000 years ago. Since the shattering of Grand Valia, the Darkosi Paladini have transformed into protectors and ambassadors of the immense Darkosi family. As well as Old Valia culture, the Darkosi Paladini are widespread and occasionally even come into conflict with each other due to the machinations of the Darkosi family. Paladins of the order are renowned for their wit and love of life. They get lay on hands, and the other guys get what? Oh yeah, we read that already. Gold-Pack Knights, mercenaries with a solemn reverence for the sanctity of contracts. Gold-Pack Knights fulfill their obligations with unemotional, unswerving commitment and without moral judgment. Gain Sworn Enemy. Sworn Enemy gains the upgrade Gilded Enmity, which causes the paladin to be imbued with a blessing of gold when they declare a sworn enemy. The paladin receives bonus armor rating until struck enough times for the gold to break. Okay, the Kind Wayfarers, a charitable order of knight-errant who assist troubled travelers and celebrate kindness, condemning deception and malice even when dealing with their enemies. The ranks of the Kind Wayfarers are filled with kith of all races from all cultures. They can be found in any part of the Old Empire's Eastern Reach and even the Deadfire. Gain Flames of Devotion, heals nearby allies. Cool. And finally, the Shield Bearers of Saint Elkga, I guess. I don't know. A paladin order of Adiran warriors who emphasize honesty and diplomacy over cruelty and aggression. The Shield Bearers were founded in the honor of an elven noble who helped unite Adir and Kolklin kingdoms after a long war. You gain Lay on Hands. Lay on Hands prevents the target from being killed for a short time, and while equipped with a shield, it gets +1 engagement. Nice. On to the Priest. Alright, we're going to go with the Barath first. Barath is the god of death, doors, and wheel of reincarnation itself. Portrayed as either a genderless deity or twinned male and female incarnations, Barath seldom speaks with their followers. Okay, their priests are expected to be rational and unemotional, treating death with a dispassionate dignity. I'm not going to read all this stuff. You guys can read here if you want. These are the spells that you learn. It looks like that's going to be the kind of the thing going on here. Eothas is the god of light, redemption, hope, and rebirth. This god was believed to have been destroyed at the end of the Saints' War, but many of the priests and followers continue to worship him. It began as a peasant revolt in Redsaris, led by a farmer named Waidwin. who claimed to be the living vessel of the god Eothas. After overthrowing the Red Saren government, Waidwen invaded the neighboring Deerwood, where he was destroyed by a weapon dubbed the Godhammer Bomb. Eothas has not been heard from since, okay? His return to Eora as Cade Nua is not yet known to most mortals. Priests of Eothas are honest and kind in their dealings, condemning all expressions of cruelty and falsehood. And you guys can read here the spells that you'll get. Magrin. Magrin is the goddess of war, fire, and struggle. She is invoked and revered by warriors of all culture, but especially by the people of the Deerwood, who believe the goddess helped them defeat Saint Waidwen during the Saints' War. Magrin favors bold action and quick wits over emotion and diplomacy. Once again, there you have it. Skane, known also as the Quiet Slave, is the god of secret hatred, resentment, and violent rebellion. He's usually depicted as a small bald man covered in lash scars whose ears and nose have been cut off. Oh, lovely! He appears outwardly submissive with downcast eyes. However, his eyes glitter black with quiet hatred, and his fist clenched. His fist is clenched, I'm sorry. He is known to manifest in a horrific incarnation known as the Effigy to followers desperate enough to perform certain unspeakable rites. In Deerwood, Skane's faithful often double as torturers and executioners, delighting in the fall of high-status prisoners. Well, that's nice. And then Whale. Wael. Wael is the god of dreams, secrets, mysteries, and revelations, inscrutable even to the other gods. Wael has no determinate gender or consistent appearance. Its symbol is the eye, though the look and number of the eyes often change. People pray to Wael both to protect their secrets as well as to unravel the mysteries in front of them. Followers of Wael are known for many strange and unusual practices, possibly for good reasons, possibly for no reason at all. Okay, cool. Alright, we have the Ranger. Alright, Ghost Heart. Ghost Hearts are rangers whose animal companions have died but remain in the in-between as spirits to serve their masters. The in-between refers to the shadow world that souls briefly wander after death. Didn't I read this already? I think I did. Ghost Hearts can summon the spirit of their companion in combat for a limited duration. Oh, the spirit of their companion. So no more bonded grief. Rangers share a literal life bond with their animal companions. When one is wounded, they can sense and feel it. Okay. Alright. And if the animal dies, oh wow, the companion can immediately die. Well, they're immune to that. The animal companion is immune to engagement, so it can just run around and attack whoever it wants, whenever it wants. That's cool. It must actively summon the animal companion during battle. It costs bond and has a duration. And the companion is considered a spirit and is affected by spirit targeting powers. Then you have the sharpshooters. They focus their attention entirely on ranged combat, relying on their animal companions to provide defense for them. Their penetration and accuracy with a ranged weapon is superior, but they take more time to recover between attacks, and they have poor deflection. Bonus hit to crit conversion when attacking targets greater than 4 meters away. Bonus to penetration when attacking 4 meters or closer. A little bit slower recovery time and lower deflection. And finally, stalkers have an especially strong bond with their animal companions and can excel when they are close to each other, but suffer as soon as they are separated by any distance. The stalker and the companion gain bonus deflection and armor rating within 4 meters of each other. However, if they are more than 7 meters from each other, they are suffering bonded grief. Okay, let's go back and see. We have Rogue. The Rogue is a guile monster. Alright, so we have no subclass. We have the Assassin. Assassins train to strike opponents who are completely unaware of their presence, often killing a hapless victim in a single blow. However, assassins are even more fragile than other rogues, making them vulnerable in toe-to-toe fights. You gain the Assassinate passive, which grants stealth attacks bonus penetration, accuracy, and critical hit damage. However, all damage received is increased. So you really have to be very, very particular and precise with your movements. You have to make sure you strike and don't become the focus of damage. Avoid spells and all sorts of other random stuff, AoEs and whatnot if you can, because you gonna die if you get hit. So glass cannon essentially. Then you have the Street Fighter EX plus Alpha. No, you have the Street Fighter. The Street Fighters excel when the odds are against them, becoming especially deadly when they are outnumbered and bloodied. Sneak attack becomes more deadly and recovery decreases when the Street Fighter is flanked or bloodied. Weapon crit damage increases when the Street Fighter is both flanked and bloodied. However, recovery is slower when the Street Fighter is neither flanked nor bloody. And then finally, the Trickster. Tricksters dabble in illusion magic to augment their rogue abilities. Using magic, tricksters can find their way out of almost any situation. But their sneak attack is less powerful than other rogues. Learns Archimir's Dazzling Lights. Gains access to select illusion wizard spells at power levels 3, 5, 7, and 9. Spells cost Guile to use. Okay. And I believe that leaves us with the Wizard. The Wizards are the masters of the academic magic. Now we need to know about the subclasses. So there are several. There's a no subclass, and there's the Conjurer, Enchanter, Evoker, Illusionist, and Transmuter. Conjurers specialize in spells that summon weapons and physical objects, but are unable to cast evocations or illusion spells. Okay. You gain increased power level with conjuration spells. Gain Conjure Familiar spell. Summon a helpful creature to aid the wizard. Familiars are poor at combat, provide passive bonuses for the master instead. Lose access to spells from the evocation and illusion schools. Increase recovery time for wizard spells not of the conjuration school. Seems dangerous, but okay. Enchanters focus on magic that bedazzles or confuses foes, but are unable to cast illusion or transmutation spells. You gain free action, passive, once per encounter when the wizard is affected by a dexterity infliction. They will clear that effect and become temporarily immune to dexterity afflictions. Penalty, you lose access to the 2 schools, and increased recovery time outside of the school of her choice. Evoker, devote all their energies toward destructive energy and magic, but are unable to cast transmutation or conjuration spells. Of course, increased with the school that we want. Your evocation spells have a smaller chance to echo, reapplying their damage and effects to the targets again instantly. You lose a 2 and increased recovery from stuff that's not in the evocation. Then we have the Illusionist. The Illusionist masters spells that disguise and conceal, but are unable to cast conjuration or enchanting spells. Of course, more power with illusion. Gain Reflexive Mirror, passive once per encounter when first attacked. Automatically gain the effects of the spell mirrored images. Of course, you lose the other 2 schools, and recovery time for non-illusion spells are increased. And finally, the Transmuters. They excel at all magic that alters the wizard or their enemies, but are unable to cast enchantment or evocation spells. They gain Form of the Fearsome Brute spell, transforms the wizard into an ogre. While in this form, spells are disabled, but physical attributes are increased. Pretty cool stuff. Pretty cool stuff. Okay, so that's pretty much it, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm going to play something that I wasn't planning to play. I still don't know exactly what I'm going to be playing moving forward, but I'm pretty sure it's not going to be an Orlan Wizard, so that's what I'm going to roll out with right now, and I'm going to go with the Conjurer, because why not? We'll try one of the subclasses. So we're going to roll out with that. Okay, let's see what spells we have available for us. Alright, we have the Ghost Blades. It's a conjuration spell. Calls a field of unearthly blades into existence, inflicting immediate slash or pierce damage, and a hobbling... I guess you can get rid of A. And hobbling enemies in an area, or in the area of effect. Console Hot's Parasitic Staff. Creates a glowing quarterstaff in the wizard's hands, imbued with negative energy. Each successful strike with the staff siphons health for the wizard. That seems useful. Kalakoth's Sunless Grasp. The caster's hands become so cold as to freeze what they touch. Does freeze damage to a target, and it reduces its accuracy. Fleet Feet. Empowers the caster with unnatural speed, granting them nimble inspiration as well as bonus disengagement defense. Spirit Shield. Surrounds the caster with a shield of spirit energy, granting an increased armor rating and concentration. The Eldritch Aim grants the caster otherworldly sight, resulting in a preternatural awareness. The wizard temporarily receives the aware inspiration from the effect. Jolting Touch. A bolt of electricity jumps from the caster's fingers to the nearest enemy, and then to the next nearest, causing decreasing amounts of shock damage. Slicken. Coats the ground in a slick oil-like substance, causing prone to anyone in the area of effect. And finally, Chill Fog. Calls a blindingly white icy fog into existence, inflicting blindness and freeze damage over time to any in the area of effect. Well, I feel like the Ghost Blades are really the number one skill that we should get. I don't know how these are going to go, but we'll see. Alright, looks like we can throw out some attributes to make us more powerful. And the ones with the gold star are the ones that are most important for the class that we are. So if we look here, highly recommended for the wizard. If we look here, highly recommended for the wizard. So intellect and resolve both are super highly recommended. So let's see what strength is. Strength contributes to weapon damage and the fortitude defense. It represents a character's brute physical strength. Makes sense. Constitution affects health and the fortitude defense. It represents a combination of the character's overall health and stamina. Then we have a dexterity. Dexterity affects the character's action speed with all attacks, spells, abilities, and contributes to the reflex defense. It represents a combination of hand-eye coordination, swiftness, and overall grace. It's apparently recommended for wizards. Then we have perception. It contributes to accuracy and reflex defense. Perception represents a character's senses as well as their instinctive ability to pick up on details. Also oddly recommended for a wizard. Intellect contributes to the will, defense, and influences durations and areas of effect for all abilities. It represents a character's logic, reasoning, and deduction capabilities. And then finally, resolve. Resolve contributes to spell damage and healing, as well as will and deflection defenses. It reflects a character's internal drive, determination, fearlessness, ability to channel powerful magic. Okay, so I'm definitely going to go with maxed out resolve. I'm going to put a fair few points into, we'll go up to 15. Into intellect, I'm going to do, I think, 1 into constitution and maybe 1 into reflex. Why not? I'm actually going to remove 2 more. We'll go 3 more from strength. I'm going to get my perception up a bit higher and my constitution up 1 more. So we're going to go with that. That's just going to be okay, I think. I know there's going to be people who can min-max and are going to do really, really well with it. I can't do that because I don't have the time, energy, or effort to sit down and learn what every single stat does and what the best possible build's going to be and go through forums and everything else. Like, to me, it's great if you want to do that and that's how you want to play. By all means, please go ahead and do that. But for me, I just want to be able to play the game, have fun, kind of make choices, and hope I don't do something so horribly awful that I ruin it. But Obsidian Entertainment's pretty good about giving you a little bit of variety and variance and, like, wiggle room, so to speak. So, that being said, what do we have here? I'm not going to read these. You guys can read these if you want. I'm just going to check the stat, so I'll just stop for like a half a second between each one just to see what the stats are, and you guys can pause and read if you want to read all this stuff. Alright, so that gives me 1 to resolve, which I'm probably going to do. This one gives us Legends Among the Speak of Ancient. It doesn't tell us what it gives us. Okay. Another 1 to resolve. So 2 now with resolve. 1 to intellect. Nothing. 1 to strength and 1 to perception. I think we're going to go from a deer. Why not? Alright, what was our job? Were we an aristocrat? A colonist? A descendant? Or a dissident. I'm sorry, not a descendant. So you guys can, again, pause and read. Diplomacy, bluff, intimidate, survival, athletics, alchemy. Dissident is history, intimidate, and stealth. A drifter is insight, bluff, and streetwise. A hunter is survival, mechanics, and alchemy. A laborer was +2 to athletics. Mercenary was streetwise, athletics, intimidation. Merchant was streetwise, bluff, and diplomacy. Clergy was 2 to religion, and a slave was 1 to survival, athletics, and streetwise. I feel like none of these are really, like, none of them would really fit us. Why can't there be like an academic? I guess I'll go with a colonist. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be where I basically break off the episode. We'll go through and just kind of take a quick glance at the different weapon proficiencies, but I mean, you have a pretty good idea what's what, and yeah, we'll do that in the next one, and we'll get right into gameplay within the first, I'd say, 2 minutes or so of the next video, and yeah, we'll actually get to see what's going down. Well, I say gameplay. There might be something where we start off at like a higher level, or in a different part of the game. We might have to level stuff up. So, again, I say gameplay, but it might still be more menu searching and hopping and everything else. And I want to thank you guys for hopping in and joining me this time around. I know this video went a little bit long, but I wanted to make sure we got through all the races and everything else. And yeah, we did. So, good stuff. And like I said, we'll see some actual gameplay in the next episode. Anyway, if you guys enjoyed, go ahead and leave a like. Like I always tell you guys, it helps a lot in the beginning of a series, or in this case, you know, the mini-series that it's going to be. It'll help with visibility and everything else to get more views and eyes on the channel, so it always helps. Go ahead and leave those likes, guys and gals. If you haven't already done so, subscribe to the channel. There'll be more Pillars of Eternity 2 and various other things coming to the channel, so you'll have plenty of stuff to watch and be entertained by. And, of course, comment down below. Let me know what you think. Until the very next episode, my name's Bumpy McSquigums. Thank you so much for stopping by the Freak Show, and I will see you later.